All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. And can I ask the city clerk to do roll call?
Councilmember Linda Budge.
Here.
Councilmember David Sander.
Here.
Councilmember Siri Pulapati.
Here.
Vice Mayor Terry.
Here.
Mayor Gatewood.
Here. Okay, can you go ahead and read the announcement?
The meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will air on Thursday, February 18th at 9 a.m. and Sunday, February 21st at 9 a.m. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch. A copy can also be ordered from the City Clerk's Department, and a webcast of this meeting will also be available on the city's website within 48 hours of adjournment of this meeting.
All right, thank you. Can I go ahead and have Cyrus do the Pledge of Allegiance? United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and then I would like to invite Dr. Colette Charles for the invocation. So, you're muted right now. Can you unmute yourself, Mrs. Charles?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
To the city, to the council, thank you for the precious invitation. If we may all bow our heads in prayer. Most gracious and merciful Father, we ask your blessings for tonight's proceeding and for the council members who have been called to lead the community in which we live, work, and interact. Thank you for every council seat that has been filled here today, for each mind and heart that feels the presence of this chamber. We thank you, oh God. Only you truly know what the agenda is set for today. Please bless all ideas, corporate visions, and remind all involved of the daily instructions what have been committed to. Bless all of the talents, abilities, and the necessary time to work diligently to bring forth a collaborative effort of harmony. Let us be reminded of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has affected us all. Let us be reminded of the homeless population and the impact that we witness daily. Only you, God, can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning. God, your righteousness transcends all efforts and understanding. Strengthen the wisdom and confidence in who you've made us to be. Please grant this council the insight and courage to know and what to do is right and good and true. May each council member always be guided by the spirit of justice and by the spirit of love, with a bright illumination of what is pure and decent in your sight, O precious God. In Jesus' name, we present this prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So it looks like something awesome. I believe that our youngest council member has a birthday. So if Babyface can get on there he is. Oh, look at him. Oh. So we're going to go ahead and sing happy birthday. The cake has been delivered to your house. It's out front with a 6-pack of beer from Log Off. Always excellent. So on the count of, everyone unmute, because I want you all to sing, because that's the best part. So we're going to do it on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mary. Happy birthday to you. Yeah.
Did you see he muted us as soon as we started that?
Yeah, the great 71st birthday.
Yeah.
All right. Public
Still
comment.
being the youngest.
All right. Let's read. Citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time via teleconference using Zoom. If you want to make up a public comment, please use the hand raise feature at the bottom of the center of the screen. If you're participating by phone and you want to make a public comment, please press *9. To raise your hand for those participating in Zoom or by telephone, please wait to be called on by the city clerk. Speakers are encouraged to keep comments to 3 or less and state the name and community of residence. Under the provision of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking immediate action on any item not on the agenda unless it is demonstrated to be an emergency nature or the need to take immediate action arose after posting of the agenda. All right. Stacy, do we have anyone?
We do have one speaker at this time in Zoom who has called by telephone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute the caller that starts with 916205 and allow you to speak. You'll have 3 minutes. If you could identify yourself for the city council, that would also be appreciated.
I'm Helen Whalen. I'm on 2600 Tierra Grande Circle. What I'd like to talk about is several things. A few months back, we approached the city manager with the need of catch sacks on the horses that come down Rod Beaudry. We haven't heard anything back on that. We would like that this be something that is highly considered because it's bad enough trying to get people to clean the streets with the street sweepers between my house and Sterling and East Tiffany Lane. And we don't think it's the neighbor's responsibility to clean up after the horses. People who walk dogs are required to clean up after their dogs. And another thing we'd like to talk about is the easements that have been awarded to us. When are we going to officially get to use them? And that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Okay, council reports. So I'm going to go ahead and start with David Sander. David.
There we go. You guys got me loud and clear?
Gotcha.
All right. I'm in a somewhat compromised internet position here, so I'm not sure video is going to work, but audio seems to be just fine. Let's see. I got a few things to report. I attended the Cal Cities board meeting last week as a board member, of course, and it was a pretty lively meeting. Had a lot of discussion about social equity and social justice and what the lead's role in that is going forward within the state. You may have seen an announcement, I think it was mailed out to the entire membership, talking about the formation of a commission to address just those topics. So you'll have more coming on that front in the future. We had a visit with the governor, which was always interesting. He talked about COVID, of course. He also talked about the need for affordable housing and the homeless crisis that we're in. His focus seemed to be primarily on those three things in that order. And he heard, I think I could say, maybe a small earful from some city council members about their frustrations on all those fronts. In particular, the remaining closure of schools in the state. He said he was personally committed to seeing that our elementary schools were opened again, but that laid in hands, obviously, other than his. And he was referring to, I guess, local school districts and perhaps local teacher unions that are making those decisions. I had a conversation last week on behalf of the nation cities, I guess you would say, on behalf of the National League of Cities, with Secretary Pete. Now, this is not to be confused with Mayor Pete because it's the same person, but Pete Buttigieg is now our Secretary of Transportation, and National League of Cities has good standing with him as he was a former mayor, and he invited the leadership of the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors into a call And it was a great, truly great conversation. I have not experienced anything like that in nearly 20 years of leadership. I would say with the secretary level in the federal government on behalf of cities. So that was refreshing. There's enormous opportunity this year as we wait for the reauthorization of the federal transportation funding. That happens about every 5 years, and that's usually delayed a year or two. So, but this appears to be the year, and with a new president eager to get accomplishments under his belt, and a Secretary of Transportation who's interested in funding us at the city level and the NPO level instead of just the state level, that could be an enormous breakthrough. Most of you guys probably remember, in recent, I'd say in the past decade or more, much of the funding that has come from the federal government goes to state Department of Transportation because there are just 50 of those. There are 50 state DOTs. And it's easy for the federal government to write 50 checks and program dollars through those 50 offices. Meanwhile, there's 18,000 cities roughly. So that would be a lot more difficult for them to manage. They probably couldn't manage that efficiently at all. The MPOs are perhaps a halfway point. So for us, that would be SACOG. It would be more funding through SACOG and less through the state, because what happens to cities when that funding goes through the state is that the state will decide as much as they possibly can. In some cases, it's to a ridiculous extent. I know Arizona during, I think this was the Great Recession funding, they got some a windfall of funding available to all states. Arizona took their funding, the Department of Transportation, and decided for each of their constituent cities what those constituent cities' projects were going to be. So basically, the cities had zero say in their share of the dollars. It's a pretty remarkable thing. And we've seen varieties of that all over the place. So we are hopeful that with this reauthorization, we'll actually get direct funding to cities or to our MPOs. I was a speaker last week at the Vision Zero annual meeting. Vision Zero is a national organization committed to achieving zero traffic deaths in the United States. In other words, reducing the number of traffic deaths. Those are people in vehicles, mass transit, pedestrians, cyclists, horseback riders, I suppose. We're trying to get that to zero through design, engineering, safety programs, etc. And they have an annual meeting every year, and I was honored to be invited to speak to it. It's interesting in our region because SACOG has worked on Vision Zero goals, but no city in our region, actually I think in the nation, there's just a handful that have actually adopted all of the Vision Zero criteria. And in part it's because it's rather onerous to do so. The engineering, the planning necessary to see a path to get your community to Vision Zero can easily be $250,000 or $500,000. We have done phase one of that sort of effort in Rancho Cordova in coordination with SACOG and a state grant that we received for it. The city of Sacramento is the only city, I think, in Northern California who has pursued it to the next level. And we would be sort of in the cohort right after that if we chose to pursue it. And I think, again, that would probably be an effort through our MPO SACOG. I attended my first regional sanitation board meeting last week, and much to my surprise, they are not Zooming. And Garrett, were you our previous representative there?
No, it was Bob.
Oh, Bob was. Well, they're not doing a Zoom meeting. And the odd thing that's happening is you have a couple of supervisors in the room, in the Board of Supervisors chamber, and all the rest of the board members are scattered around at our homes. And we get delayed video that the public gets through the website for their meetings. And so you're unable to participate in any presentation. They'll say, as you can see clearly on this slide, and you can't see it. You have to wait a minute before the video online catches up with what you're hearing in your ear for the phone call. It's ridiculous. So I don't know if I made the best impression for Rancho Cordova because I sort of voiced that as an objection at my very first board meeting. That may have been a bit much for them, but that's all right. I put down a marker. Let's see. We do have an interesting issue coming from the state. Cyrus and I have had a little correspondence about it. It has to do, this is a SACOG-like issue, it has to do with the state declaring opportunity zones around the state. The goal from HCD, or State's Housing and Community Development Department, is to facilitate affordable housing getting into affluent communities. The theory is that if you get more affordable housing in affluent communities, then the people who can live in that affordable housing by reason of their income, people who are allowed to live there and who apply there and successfully get in there, will have more opportunities in an affluent community than they would in a non-affluent community. And they applied all sorts of criteria to this, including environmental screens, et cetera. And so when you look at a map that this project is putting out, Rancho Cordova, along with a lot of other communities, West Sacramento, Woodland, Citrus Heights, City of Sacramento, we're all labeled as a low opportunity zone, which is not really the sort of title we like. And the other odd part of this, and Donald, you may have something to say about it, is this would limit our ability to get grants for affordable housing in Rancho Cordova. It would facilitate wealthier communities getting those grants instead. It seems like this might be a little, disjointed. If the state's goal, and I don't really disagree with that, is to put affordable housing into wealthier communities, then perhaps they ought to require that in some way without taking away grant dollars from poorer communities who are trying to improve their housing stock. I don't know. It's an odd situation. It appears to have generated some heat at SACOG. Cyrus, you may have something that you want to say about this as well, but I just want to make you aware, if you hear something about low opportunity or high opportunity zones and a big debate at SACOG, that's what it's about. And I think that's my report.
David, if you have any material on that, can you send it to me?
I have very little.
Okay.
I have a staff report from a committee meeting that I'm not assigned to that committee, but I will send you that, Donald.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Linda, how'd you do? Linda,
Hey, Garrett, do me a favor and come back to me.
you got it.
Thank you.
Donald, my man. Council, please.
Did you skip Siri?
She also has to come back to her. So come back.
Okay. Let's see. We had an air district meeting. Kind of as expected, Sue Frost chose not to step into the chair position. So Eric Guerra will stay chair for another 2 years. I think that's the only commission in the region that does 2-year chairmanship. So I was it last time. Eric's going to stick around for a second round of that. And Patrick Kennedy was elected the vice chair. The only thing to note right now, it is check before you burn time. So if you have a wood fireplace or are planning on having a bonfire in your backyard, go check the Air Quality Management District's Spare the Air website to see if it's a no burn day. Obviously, for those low-income people that use wood fireplaces as their primary source of heat in the winter are exempted, and there's ways to deal with that. There was a Low American River Conservancy meeting on Friday. There's some funding left over. The last time they did an RFP, I don't think they got any proposals. There is going to be a 2021 solicitation. They're working on it now. They don't have any specifics as far as when they would do it. So I would encourage staff to work with our nonprofit partners or whoever else along the American River. As most of you know, in the last funding round, we were able to, in the first funding round and then the second funding round, which was the last one that had funding, we secured funding for a project at Soilborn Farms, which is moving forward now. Let's see. They had a regional parks update as part of that meeting. If you're interested, they tape all of those, and you can go to the California Wildlife hang on, I got it right here. The Wildlife Conservation Board. Wildlife Conservation Board. Go to their website, you look up Lower American River Conservancy Program, and it's in there. So more to come, probably, I would say late spring as far as an RFP and funding opportunities for there. So my calendar and see if there was any others that came up. We had another NLC meeting about our post-secondary education work that we're doing in concert with Folsom Lake College. I and Stacy Delaney also had a meeting with American River College with their president and some of their staff to look at an expanded promise program that might include things like building trades and other targeted vocational and workforce development programs. Some that are housed, the building trades program is mainly run out of American River College, although there are some at Consumnes College. There's also a nursing program at Consumnes. And so kind of, I think what we left with them was trying to get us some more information about what are the high paying, stable workforces out there that we may want to target an expanded promise program at some point. And so they're going to get that back to us. They were really excited to try to launch it in the next month or two. And I kind of explained what our budget timelines were and the fact that the entire council will need to, vet it and understand what they would be supporting. So it wouldn't be something this school year. It would be something for the following school year. So more to come on that. And I think that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Donald. So I'm going to do my mayoral report, and then we'll go back and catch everybody up. So I got to introduce Rancho Cordova to the new mayor of Stockton today. Bragged about our city a lot. He knows we're a lot better than his. Just joking, but we are. And it was great to see him come through, and he's very excited, and he's really impressed with some of the things that you guys, meaning the other council members, put together, like the setting up little groups in our community. What you've done is amazing to be able to set that up and channel pride that Donald and Linda and David were here for. He's also impressed with our POP officers and our integrated policing and a lot of things that he's looking forward to. I'm not going to say stealing, but, copying is the best form of gratitude. So good on that. I met with Sergey from RAM. I talked some exciting news from Log Off Brewing. Met to the hotel group. They have some crazy, amazing ideas coming down the pipeline. I had my vice mayor meeting with Mr. Terry, and that was awesome always. And then Sutter Urgent Care, there's a couple more that are interested in putting little medical facilities inside the city of Rancho because we're growing so much. And there is whispers of a hospital. So I don't know what that would entail. But the minute I hear anything about that, I always drag people from economic development into the room. So that was cool. So that was my meeting report. And then let's go ahead and have Linda. Are you ready?
Thanks, Garrett. And I apologize. This is kind of an active evening in the real estate world.
Are you moving again?
Yeah, no, no, just divesting ourselves of the one we moved away from.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
Okay. So, and all is good on that front. I would report that I'm hoping everyone is signed up for the Chamber's Economic Development Annual Forecast. It looks like an impressive group of people that are signed up. It's coming on February the 25th, and I know we've all gotten invitations that we've responded to, and I'm hoping that everybody who's listening will do the same thing. You get a macro view of the economic world in general, and then a micro view of what's going on locally. In addition, I would request, and I'm sure Donald will second me in this, that everybody who has kids who's used to taking them to the Children's Museum, if you have not signed up for their home kits, then you need to do that because they have some absolutely fascinating programs. And in addition to the Children's Museum, I would also suggest that the Sacramento History Museum downtown Sacramento also has some really cool programs to kind of help expand the knowledge of the people who are, the kids who are a little bit older. I suspect, and you all can verify that in this age of homeschool learning, anything you can do to expand your kids' access to knowledge in a very fun way is probably a really good idea. And both the Children's Museum as well as the Sacramento History Museum look like I have some really cool ideas. And finally, I would ask that we adjourn tonight in the memory of 3 wonderful gentlemen. I was absolutely blown away over the weekend to read about this. The first person would be a gentleman whose name is Ed Sarmento, and I'm sure nobody but Cyrus and I know who that is. Probably Marilyn or Elizabeth or somebody like that. But he was a wonderful gentleman who worked for the County of Sacramento for many, many years and retired as the Chief Building Inspector. Secondly, a gentleman whose name will be familiar, Ken Nowak, but this is Ken Nowak Sr. Ken was a very well-respected insurance broker here in the local area. His father was in it before he was, and he was the owner of Nowak and Dean Insurance, and just a wonderful gentleman. And it's no wonder that Ken Jr. sends us Christmas cards with photos from exotic places, because their family has taken vacations in really parts of the world that most of us never get to. And then finally, a longtime friend of mine, Russ Knauer. The only reason any of you would remember Russ is because he and his partner, Marlon Guinea, are the people who first rescued the Libby Olive cannery and turned it into Nimbus Winery. And they restored the whole thing, and they put in the things like a spaghetti factory and such a wide variety of stores. Originally the toy store and a beautiful candle and gift shop. Marlon and his family ran a perfectly beautiful gift shop in there. They brought in the theater upstairs. There were offices upstairs, and they owned that from at least the mid-'80s to maybe early 2006 or 7, when they sold that to the gentleman who came down from Seattle and bought that, as well as the Mill Center. And just a wonderful friend whom I've known for the entire 50-plus years that I've been here in Sacramento. His wife and I first worked together at Macy's back in the late 60s, which tells you how old we all are, because we were kids at that point. And that would be my report. And I sent those 3 names to Stacy and her crew, so they'll have the correct spellings.
Excellent.
Thank you,
I didn't have any idea.
And I should tell you that all 3 of these people were veterans.
That's excellent.
All 3 of them, yes.
All right.
Bob would want me to say that.
Last but not least, Siri Potty.
Hey, thanks, Garrett. So I met with the Community Engagement Division, Lorianne, and she gave me a good update on what the program is. You know, it is to empower residents to create strong neighborhoods with a good quality of life. And she talked to me about what the community engagement programs was. I really liked the way she put it, you know, where they do it with focusing on the strengths that the city has, and so they can actually go and build based on our strengths. So that was really good. And, you know, we talked about the microgrants and the neighborhood projects, the community involvement, and what can be done, what has been done in 2020, and what the potential plans that they have for 2021, which include, you know, the focus on the previous neighborhoods that they've already worked on, the current neighborhoods of Cordova Meadows, Lincoln Village, Somerset Ranch, White Rock, and they're also planning to do like the Mills Ranch and Vineyards. And they have, you know, a focus on the strong neighborhoods, you know, the Good Neighbor Assistant Program and the local business community service. So it's really good for me to understand what has been done and the programs that have been planned for 2021. And again, I'd like to say, anybody, please look out for the microgrants and also for your community. It's $500 that you could really use. Put in a proposal to Lorianne. That's really good thing that the city has to offer. Another one that I did speak to was from the JP. This is the mayor's pet project and also mine to have a technology council. We spoke specifically for women in technology, how to build a sorority or a mentorship program and what we could do to support each other, especially today's pandemic. And this is what I said, right? We have to go back, build back the economic development, but also they need a support structure for the women, in fact, they're calling it the women that are leaving the workforce. It now has a term. I'll come back to it. What was that?
Sadie's term?
No. There's a term that people have been using for women that are leaving the workforce. I'll come back to that anyway. But anyway, C-session is that's what it's called because of the amount of women that are leaving the workforce in this pandemic. So they need a lot more support given to get the work-life balance, to manage childcare, to manage the home, so and work. So we're talking some about that. So we're working on it. I'll try to update as and when we proceed.
Excellent. That's going to be an exciting project. I can't wait to work with you on it, Siri.
Yes.
All right. Donald, you had one more thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just remembered tomorrow is going to be, I think, really the first Cap to Cap 2021 steering committee, whatever they're calling it now. I just wanted to update you that I'm going to be reaching out to Jen Covino. And for those of you who are aware, I've been a team captain for the Community Resources, which is really homeless housing and affordable housing team. And so we're going to work over the next 6 months to do some virtual meetings with different DC contacts around the housing and different services departments and things like that. Probably really similar to what David was doing with the NLC and some other folks. And so I don't know what Cap to Cap is going to look like. It's not going to be this spring. I will tell you that. The last update that they gave was that there probably wasn't going to be one this year at all. And a handful of us pushed back that they at least need us to start working on virtual content of some sort, because we can't wait a year with a new administration to not figure out things like David was talking about around transportation or water resources or flood management or how homelessness and housing. And so we'll see what the conversation is tomorrow, but I wanted to let you know that for our team, we'll be moving forward with a handful of different virtual meetings with key contacts that we would normally meet with during a Cap to Cap that we haven't seen for 18 months. And so more to come on that, and I'll make sure to invite all of you if you're interested in being part of that team. I know Garrett's attended that in the past as part of our team.
So Garrett, I got a couple of comments for Donald.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Donald, it seems that so many people who have been tapped to participate in the new administration might be people that Cap to Cap has dealt with in the past, 6 and 8 years ago. And so obviously the leadership team at Cap to Cap is going to want to remind all those people that they have existing relationships. And I'm sure that if any of us can help you, we'd be happy to do that. We don't want this. I mean, it was supposed to be the 50th year anniversary.
Last year was, yeah. Yeah.
And those of us, the people like Roy Brewer and myself have been going for so very long. We sure don't want this region to lose out on that incredible breadth of contacts that have been established with the federal government. That would just be an absolute tragedy. And I know they're very concerned about that. I know Amanda and her team are very concerned about that at the Metro Chambers. So whatever we can do to support everybody, let them know we're ready.
Yeah, I think they just need to figure out what they want to be and what they want this to be. Because at some point there's going to be one, and it's going to be the 50th anniversary, but it may not be till next year, right? But that'll still be the 50th one because we haven't had one since then.
It will.
But yeah, they had a call, I want to say in December, that was essentially kind of informing the group that they weren't going to have it, I guess is the clearest way to say it. But it was pretty light, I would say, on now what? Now that hadn't happened. And so a handful of us made it very clear that, you know, there still needs to be this effort of doing that work. And while, you know, a lot of the galas and other things like that may attract some people to that program, you know, a lot of us spend a lot of time doing a lot of work over those few days back in DC.
It's time to get back to working.
Yeah, and that's what a handful of us said, that, you know, regardless of what the rest of that trip is, or program is, not trip, that work is going to be critical over the next few months in working with a new administration. And like you said, with a lot of us that have really great contacts from before 4 years ago, right? And bringing those to bear, because we're going to see a lot of familiar faces that we can work with.
Yeah.
So thanks, Linda. I'll make sure to share that tomorrow.
Excellent.
Super.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right,
Sorry, I
Cyrus,
forgot.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few items. I held a meeting of our Sac Valley City Managers Group and talked about the variety of issues that the cities in our region are facing. Interestingly, I think it's good to know that we all face pretty similar issues and talk about the same kind of potential solutions and problems that we need to work with. We also, Councilmember Sander, Maria Nisted, Albert Strickland, and I met with several representatives from the California Department of Food and Agriculture today, and they informed us that there has been some signs of Japanese beetle in our communities, specifically some areas in Stone Creek and several properties along Matherfield Boulevard. So they would be taking some fairly aggressive measures to eradicate this. California at this point does not have an infestation of Japanese beetle, but it is a very invasive pest, and it could do significant damage to our agriculture and horticulture throughout the state. So they would be sending flyers out to our community members. They would be contacting all the property owners that have been affected. I think, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it's several hundred folks that have been, or properties that have been identified, and they would be working with them directly to get that eradicated. The only other thing I wanted to add related to the question that came up about the opportunity zones, the only thing I would like to add to it, that this is not a static map. This is something that gets constantly updated. And this is not also the only criteria that's being used for grant opportunities. The housing agency, the California Housing Agency, doesn't necessarily use this map. They have other criteria to allocate funding or recommend funding for housing projects. So that is not necessarily the only one measure that they use. So, but we will monitor it. We will continue our discussions with HCD. At the minimum, if they could come up with a different name or designation, and I call it low opportunity, it would probably be better for us. But their goal and intent, as pointed out by Councilmember Sander, is to spread housing in different communities and make sure that they're not all concentrated in low-income communities, and that some of the more affluent communities also have some affordable housing. And lastly, the only thing I want to say is that our Measure H application process, grant application process, was kicked off today, and I hope that those residents or businesses that are listening to this and are nonprofit organizations can take advantage of this opportunity. There was something, we did put something in the grapevine. Information is also available on city's website, And our staff would be working through the application process in the next 30 days or so, and to bring some recommendations back to the City Council sometimes in April. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. All right. Consent calendar items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item individually. All items will be approved by one motion. Are there any council members that wish to pull an item?
Seeing none, I'll move the calendar.
A second.
Excellent. Roll call, please, Stacy.
Councilmember Budge,
Did she drop?
You dropped.
I will come back to Councilmember Budge. Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Terry,
Aye.
Mayor Gatewood,
Yes.
and we still don't have Councilmember Budge.
So one abstain. All right. So moving on. Do we just move on, Adam?
And just for the record, there was an absent, not abstention.
Right.
All right. Next. No consent items, so we're going to go right to public hearing items. Subject: an ordinance adopting the ranch special planning area amendment and ordinance adopting the First Amendment of the development agreement between the city of Rancho Cordova and Quajo Canadian at Jaeger Ranch relative to the ranch. So
How do you pronounce that? Is the J
staff
silent?
report.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Is the J silent or do we?
It's Jaeger, like the drink.
Okay.
Like
Right.
the stuff you
Okay.
drink in college, Jaeger.
Jaeger. Okay. Jaeger
There we
Ranch.
go.
Got it.
Got it.
I believe. I don't know if the applicant wants to correct us, but I
Planning
think that's how
staff.
I've been saying
Are you
it.
ready for your report? Staff?
And
Uh-oh.
Linda is back for the record. And you're on mute, Linda.
Sorry.
There you
No, my internet quit.
go. Yeah.
Quit.
We should all just be thankful we have power and don't live in Texas at the moment.
That's right.
Don't laugh. I talked to my cousin Nikki in Bastrop, which is 30 minutes from Austin, this morning. Her temperature was 13 degrees, and they have snow everywhere.
Did you say Bass Drop?
Does not own a snowplow.
All right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me? All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. June Cowles, the Planning Department. And I do have a PowerPoint. There it goes. So tonight's project, the Ranch Special Planning Area Amendment and the Development Agreement Amendment.
Give us a moment.
Okay.
Sorry, are we on 11.1 or 11.2?
11.1.
Okay. You can advance the next slide. Okay. So the ranch is located south of Douglas Road and north of the Sun Creek Specific Plan. This special planning area was approved last year, January 2020. And the next slide. So the applicant is requesting an amendment to the infrastructure phasing plan, and that's included in the ranch special planning area handbook and the development agreement. Next slide. So the developer's original proposal was to construct the full width and length of Chrysanthi, which is the east to west road, highlighted in orange, prior to the first occupancy in the development, and phase other improvements along Rancho Cordova Parkway expansion and trail system. And next slide. So the developer is proposing to revise their plan by constructing Chrysanthi Boulevard in 4 phases. So the Chrysanthi is a 4-lane road, and the proposed planning phasing plan includes construction of interim half sections, and then would defer construction of the median and 2 lanes until subsequent phase completes the full section. And so the next slide. And staff recommends the City Council introduce and waive first reading of the ordinances, approving the special planning area amendment and the first amendment to the development agreement. And the applicant and the Public Works Director are in attendance if you have any questions.
Garrett, I have questions.
All right, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so probably for Albert or Cyrus, or probably for Albert. I didn't quite follow this, and I think everyone will agree that the Roman numerals and the coloring doesn't probably depict what they actually think they're going to do, but well, I can understand their desire to not build the entire road. On the other hand, this county is replete with places where, since Prop 13, the developers built a part of a road and the rest of the road never got built. And I'm not saying that that would happen here, but I think it's important that we ensure that in Rancho Cordova, we are not leaving open bare ground where there was supposed to be pavement, and that we're building a complete street to serve the people that are going to live there and need it. And so if I'm looking at the larger version of the map rather than the smaller version that was in the staff report, they're both pretty clear. But if somebody wanted to build the Chrysanthi, a total build out all the way to letter D, where it crosses the open space, then it seems to me that that would be much preferable to having them build only a couple of lanes to here and a couple of lanes to there, and not build the median. That's not much of a sales pitch to have bare ground and back fences that back up to bare ground. If you want to see what that looks like, you can go down Grant Line right now to Elk Grove, or in the Bradshaw area, and you can see what that looks like. Or you can drive Garfield, any one of the streets in this county that is basically looks like dragon's teeth, where you've got pieces of sidewalk and pavement, and then you've got open space in other chunks. That's not very organized, and I really seriously doubt that that's the way we want our neighborhoods to look. So, June, tell me what you think the physical appearance of this phasing plan would look like.
And I think I was going to have the Public Works Director, Albert, answer that question. But
Super.
just until he gets on, I hope it's just going to be deferred, the median and the lane, and then the sidewalk would be built with the landscaping. But go ahead, Albert.
Which sounds like, I'm sorry, Albert, it sounds like concrete, dirt, and sidewalk in that order. So tell me what you think this would all look like.
And good evening, Mayor Gatewood and council members. Albert Stricker with the Public Works Department. And I think you, Council Member Budge, you have a pretty clear understanding of what it would look like. It would be similar to what you said, with the potential difference that in that open area, they would build a half section. That open area would include probably some kind of erosion control that would be native grasses or some type of grasses. They are proposing to build some landscaping and the sidewalk on the other side, but it would be open ground in between there.
Thank you, Albert. I was afraid of that. Thanks, Garrett.
All right, great. Okay, so I'm going to open it. Let's see, I'm going to open it for public hearing and see if we have any speaker cards. Stacy.
We have not received, the city clerk's office has not received anything via email, and I do not see any hands raised in Zoom or by telephone for this item.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Garrett, did the applicant have anything to say? I think I heard that the applicant was here.
Applicant. Olga,
Yes,
is that
applicant, yes, the applicant would like to edit.
Go ahead, Olga.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So one of the things that I would like to mention, the road will be built not in 4 phases, but in 3 phases. And if somebody could put the map back on, I will go over the pieces. Can we get the map on?
It takes just a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
That's okay.
apologize.
That's okay.
Okay, so if you see, so as a phase 1, we're planning to build 3 villages, 3 product lines, and Village 9, Village 4, Village 5, and 6, which is the same project, the same product. That's why we're covering, yes?
Olga, I'm sorry. The exhibit all has 1s on it. And then the 2s are in the green section, which seems to be 40, 63, 74, and 56.
Yes, are you asking me if that's the phasing? Yes, it is. So the first year we're planning to build, we're planning to grade only a quarter of the site, which is the blue and green areas. We're planning to build what's required to serve those communities. And you can see those segments F to A to B is going to be a full section. And that's going to be our primary entry to our first villages, Village 9 and 4 and 5. And because the frontage of those, we decided we're going to extend to all the way to the sea. And so from A to B, it's going to be full section, 4-lane road, full median, full landscaping. From B to C, we will go from full section to half section, which is represented right there as an interim section. Okay. So when we brought this request to staff, we showed them one of the examples, how it's going to look like on Washington Boulevard. And the entire area is going to be graded to the finished grade and hydroseeded and mowed for 1 or 2 years. The staff asked us to make sure that the landscape on the other side is complete. So the only hydroseed section is going to be where the 2 southern lanes would be. So in a way, you will have a sidewalk on the other side that's way removed from the main driving area for the first couple of years. Okay.
So one look on the south side. So the open space is on the south side.
Yes, which is like kind of lilac color. So unfortunately, this is what we can build and afford. But our rationale is, as you remember from the original approval hearings, we wanted to get phase 5 and 6 at the same time, but unfortunately, the entire road it's a little bit too large for us to undertake on our own without the partners, and we were not able to find development partners at this time. So we decided to advance market rate construction and put more rooftops in the market rate community that will help you to get the high school faster, rather than splitting our time between market rate community and the active adult community. So we saw it and as a positive. So in a year, so after the blue villages, which is going to be, we're going to start them in the year 1, which they're projected to be start in the late fall or December of this year. The following year, we will start working on green villages. And in the year 3, we're going to grade the purple areas and complete the road from C to D and from D to B. So in the year 3, you will have complete section. Any questions so far?
Jared, I have a question for Albert.
Go ahead.
Albert, is this any different from the phasing that we saw with, like, I don't know, Douglas? They built one half of it and then they came back in. I mean, I guess in this case, we're leaving the middle open, I guess is the difference? Is that what I'm understanding from that? What I'm looking at on the screen looks like the X'd out part there that's saying is deferred is the middle, but that's really just, it's one side of it, right?
And the median.
Albert?
Yes, council member, that's correct. It's similar to Douglas Road and similar to Rancho Cordova Parkway. I would say with the difference that on Douglas Road, there is not significant development on the north side, and Rancho Cordova Parkway, there is not significant development at this time on the east side, really south of Crisanti. So similar, but with a little bit different configuration of where the development is occurring.
Well, and what's been built on Crisanti so far, let's say past the Anatolia area, so what the new section that we just got looks very similar to this, right? It's got sidewalk on one side, it's got a very small median because that's going to be 2 lanes going one way someday, right? And then they're going to build the other part of it. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And again, in that example, the development to the north, I think, is just now getting started. But really, they only built the south side of the finished road.
Correct. And as Montalena is coming in, they're required to build the north side.
Right. But in this case, they're phasing it within their own subdivision, but it's not that much different from what has been happening, except in the other cases, it's that another development hasn't started, like Rio hasn't started, or Montalena, like you said, hasn't started. And so those were delayed a while. Right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may add a few points, one of the reasons we omitted the island is because when you do construction on the other side, we wanted to put, landscaping in the middle to kind of make it complete. However, we were advised by our landscape architects against it because, the trees are gonna, suffer and not thrive, and most likely we will have to replace them. So that's one of the reasons we, kind of discarded that idea. Also, if you look at the Village 9 and Village 10 and 11, that's the same product for us. Village 9 is only 71 units. It's 35 by 78 lots, so it's the same product. So with our absorption rate, we will need those Village, 10 and 11, in 2 years because we probably don't want to gap out. And this is one of our most successful products that we've been selling in Natomas. That's well received by buyers, and it's in an entry point of the market. So we want those lots. We're not planning to, obviously I cannot guarantee you because anything can happen. Never say never, but it's not our intent at this point to, go and abandon it. So originally we wanted to go to the active adult, but it's not, it's financially infeasible for us at this moment.
All right, so I guess we'll move on to close public hearing, and I'll ask for a motion.
I'll move the item.
I second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati?
Yes.
Councilmember Budge?
No.
Vice Mayor Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Gatewood?
Yes. All right. Stacy, can you please read 11.2?
11.2 is the Royal Sea Store Administrative Use Permit, AUP, Conditional Use Permit, CUP, and Letter of Public Convenience and Necessity, PCN, project number DD 10007, located at 3336 Matherfield Road within Rockingham Plaza.
All right, can I go ahead and have planning staff's report?
So I am adding Nick Souza from the Planning Department to present.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Nick Sosa with the Planning Department. This project was brought to you before, so I'll just quickly go through it. Next slide, please. So the Royal Sea store was originally presented to City Council on January 19th. Given the City Council's comments at the last meeting for their request for a CUP and PCN, the applicant has withdrawn their application for the conditional use permit and PCN, but the applicant would still like to move forward with their application for an administrative use permit for a convenience store. Next slide, please. Just to refresh your memory on the location of the Royal Sea store, it's in the Rockingham Plaza at the corner of Rockingham Drive and Matherfield Road. Next slide, please. The applicant has revised their floor plan to remove the alcohol sales portion of the convenience store, and it still includes the additional grocery and convenience items for their store. Next slide, please. The conditions of approval still reflect the additional standards for convenience stores that are required by the zoning code. These additional standards include outdoor lighting requirements, litter removal requirements, additional security measures, window coverage limitations, and additional security systems and training for their staff. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the City Council determine the project categorically exempt under 15301 existing facilities and approve the AUP subject to the conditions of approval and findings contained in the resolution. Next slide, please. Staff is available for questions as well as the applicant, who's also part of this meeting.
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and ask the city clerk, is there any speaker cards for this item?
We have one item that was emailed, one public comment that was emailed to the city clerk's office. That public comment was by Faiza Mughal, and that's been presented to staff as well as the city council. I don't see any additional hands in Zoom or by phone at this time.
Okay. Do any of my council members wish to speak?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, Garrett.
Go ahead, Linda.
So Nick, first of all, I read your conditions of approval, and I appreciate your reinforcing the prohibition against covering up all the windows. And just from driving by and from the pictures, it looks like they might already be in violation of that 15%. And so I'm hoping that you have potentially counseled them on how to not cover up all their windows, you know. And then the second one, I did not see a condition that has anything to do with signage. And right now their signage is very clearly cigarettes, smoke shop, and one hopes that they would put up a sign that said market, groceries, convenience, not just add cigarettes and groceries or cigarettes and more or something like that. So could we have a condition that required them to better reflect what they're doing on the inside?
Sure. So we can definitely work with the applicant regarding the window coverage. In regards to placing some kind of condition of approval for their signage on what they are marketing, that would be something that I'd have to defer to the legal department and see if they can speak on that in terms of what's allowed for the city.
And I would also like to ask, or perhaps the applicant can say, on the front of the store, there's these notations of grill fence. There is none of that chain link or stuff that you see in New York that makes it look like they created a fortress at the end of the day when they lock their doors. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping nobody's planning to do that kind of thing.
I'm not sure what the applicant's intention is with that. I'd have to see if he would be able to speak to that regarding the grill fencing.
Happy to have him.
Is the applicant available to speak?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. What was that again?
Okay, so in your drawing, you have a notation on the front of the store that says grill fence. And what that makes me think of is the kind of things that you see in movies, like in New York City, where they've got this giant grill that closes over their doors during their hours when they're not open. And I'm hoping you're not planning to do that kind of thing that looks like you need an armed fortress.
I had a fire inspection done through the fire department. We did what was required through and to be compliant. They made us change all the locks on that front grill door, which you're referring to. And we keep it open during the business hour. And that was honestly already there before we even acquired the business from the previous owner. They're the one who installed it. And, the fire department already approved it. They made us change they said we can have those in the compliance as long as we have a door knob, which is one motion to open it. That's how they put it. So that's why we made sure that we got those locks on it in order to be in compliance with it.
That's too bad. It's what they call the equivalent of a Knox lock. It's the grill equivalent of a Knox lock,
But if you want, we don't have to close that door. I'm okay with that to be, not slide it and close it. That's fine with me.
it just looks like, it just makes the area look like something that needs an armed guard. Sorry.
No, I understand what you're saying. But
And I know you're a friendly store because we've had so much testimony, so many letters at the previous hearing for the people who really come to your store all the time and totally appreciate the way you run your operation.
Right. No,
Well,
that's fine. If you have any issue with the door sliding and closing, that's fine. We don't have to, we won't close it. That's okay.
Great. Any other comments from any other council members?
That's a
Garrett,
great comment.
I just had one.
Thank you for taking that up.
Go ahead, Donald.
And I thought about it after our last meeting, and this is more of throwing it out to economic development. But in instances where we're seeing tobacco stores like this or liquor stores in general that want to start putting in fresh fruits and vegetables and become more of a neighborhood grocery store of some sort, I know there is some specialized financing out there from a couple of CDFIs, but this would be a really great thing to look at it from an economic development standpoint if we wanted to do grants or favorable financing to encourage more businesses to think about this kind of stuff and addressing a lot of food deserts that we have in our city. And so where it makes sense, I hope we're thinking, how we can incentivize businesses like this to move beyond, kind of more vice products like tobacco and alcohol and things like that, and serve more of the community. So I don't know if we can do that in this case. And I kind of thought about it after the fact of our last hearing, but I wanted to bring it up, not only for this applicant to work with economic development, but also for economic development to look for more opportunities like this, and see how we might incentivize more businesses to transform their businesses within our city.
Excellent. Thank you, Donald. Any other council members? Okay, I'm going to close public hearing and ask for a motion.
I'll move the item.
I'll second it.
Stacy, roll call.
Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Budge,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Terry,
Aye.
Mayor Gatewood,
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. So
Well,
we're going to move on.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for doing this. All right,
Thank you.
regular calendar items. Stacy, can you go ahead and read the subject, please?
Appointment of real property negotiator, Cyrus Abhar, City Manager, Micah Runner, Deputy City Manager, and Adam U. Lindgren, City Attorney. Property address and assessor's parcel number, APN 11327 Folsom Boulevard, 069 0090 001 0000, and address 10559 Folsom Boulevard, parcel number 057 0231 016 0000.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Stacy, can I get a roll call?
Councilmember Linda Budge,
Yes.
Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Terry,
Aye.
Mayor Gatewood.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. You have joined the meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting.
While we're waiting, well, never mind. I won't ask Adam what does his middle initial stand for. Yeah. I've never heard
The
anybody
host would like you to unmute your microphone. You are unmuted.
We're all
Adam, what's your middle name?
Thank
The Old Testament, the Old Testament prophet Uriah.
Ukiah?
Uriah.
Yeah.
And it was the resolution of a class of two different cultural requirements in my family. So we can tell you about that offline.
I can guess.
Beautiful.
I'd never heard anyone say your middle initial until right then. I'm like, huh. I don't know what that stands for.
The city clerk is back. Thank you. We have a
Here we go.
phone system that drops in the council chambers right now every 90 minutes, so we're working to fix that. In the meantime, I'm going to start this roll call again, and I'll start with Councilmember Linda Budge.
Yes.
Councilmember David Sander.
Aye.
Councilmember Siri Pulapati.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Terry.
Aye.
Mayor Gatewood.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next subject. Stacy, would you mind reading it?
Appointment of real property negotiators, Cyrus Abhar, City Manager, Micah Runner, Deputy City Manager, Elizabeth Sparkman, Community Development Director, and Adam U. Lindgren, City Attorney. Assessors, parcel numbers, APN 072 0370 071, also 072 0370 102. Next, APN number 072 0370 046. Next, APN 072 0370 047. Next, APN 072 0370 048. Next, APN 072 0370 103. Next, APN 072 0370 104. Next, APN 072 0370 105. The last APN 072 0370 089.
Move the item.
Second. Now that we all feel like we need a class on dictation, or diction, I guess it is.
I was about to yell bingo at the end of that, honestly.
Roll call.
Go ahead, Stacey.
Councilmember Linda Budge,
Yes.
Councilmember David Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Siri Pulapati,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Terry,
Aye.
Mayor Gatewood.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, does anyone else have any agenda items they'd like to go over? All right, so seeing none, we're going to adjourn this meeting and go to closed session. So everyone click the link at the bottom and go to closed session. And leaving.